just for your information, we will record this meeting and make it available on the homepage as well as the slides. So maybe not today, but after Easter, you will find both the slides and the recording of today's meeting on the EJP-SOIL homepage. Great. So welcome everyone to this last webinar for our two calls, the Visiting Scientist and the Access to Infrastructure. So it's not only the last webinar, but it's also the last time we will open these calls. The last possibility for you to apply for funding via the EJP-SOIL. So today's, are you recording, Eva, the meeting? Yeah, perfect. So today's agenda, I will start and give a short overview over the EJP-SOIL program. I guess most of you, if not all, know it already, but I think it's good to still have kind of an overview where we come from. Then Božena will introduce the call Visiting Scientist. I will talk about the access to infrastructure and the application procedure. And after that, either Andreas or myself will briefly present the organizational framework and the subcontracting that goes along with the access to infrastructure call. And whenever you have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. We will try to react to them during the meeting, but there will also be time for questions and discussions at the end of the presentation. I guess the presentation will maybe take about half an hour or so, maybe a bit more. All right, the EJP-SOIL has been running now for almost 5 years, 4.5 years. So we are in the last month of this, in total 60 months program. We have quite a number of countries involved, 24 in total, which you see here on the map. And what this program is all about is actually to ensure that, the farming sector becomes a steward of land and soil resources in Europe, and that farmers contribute to the adaptation of agro ecosystems to climate change and to climate change mitigation. So it's all about sustainable soil management in relation or with regards to climate change mitigation and adaptation. So in order to reach this goal, we have 6 expected areas of impact, which you see here. I will not go through all of them in detail. You can find them using the link below. So if you search for it on the homepage, you can find these expected impacts. But as you see, a lot of it is on soil management, climate change mitigation and adaptation, understanding soil carbon sequestration, strengthening scientific capacities, and cooperation across Europe, including training young soil scientists. And this is basically the expected impact that these two calls, the Visiting Scientist and the Access to Infrastructure, are linked to. Because with these calls, we want to strengthen scientific capacities, but also foster cooperation across Europe. Another expected impact is the harmonization of European soil information, fostering uptake of soil management practices, and development of region and context-specific fertilization practices. And why do I mention these expected impacts? Mainly because during the applications, which we hope you will write and submit, we will ask you to link your project, so your visit or your the analysis that you want to perform, to at least one of these expected impact areas. So very briefly about the two calls, visiting scientists and access to infrastructure. So these grants are meant to be complementary to the activities that are ongoing in the EJP Sol. And these grants are of interest for both members of the EJP Sol, but also externals. So those who are not members of the EJP Sol, but would like to collaborate with an EJP Sol member. And using these grants, you can contribute to work that is undertaken in the framework, so in the work packages, which also includes the research projects. But you can also exploit the European soil research infrastructure. And depending on what your interest is in, you should apply to either 5.4, which is the visiting scientist, or 7.4, which is the access to infrastructure. But we will go through this in more detail in a couple of minutes. So it doesn't matter if you're a researcher or non-research technical staff, you can still apply for these grants. And with that, enhance collaboration with other research institutions, but also get in contact with research stations within EJP Sol, but also outside EJP Sol. What are the main differences and what do these calls then have in common? As you see on the left-hand side, the visiting scientist, as the name basically already says, aims to strengthen institutional partnerships, so visits between institutions, whereas the access to infrastructure aims to facilitate access to the soil research infrastructure, which means soil data or soil samples for both non-researchers and researchers. And both of these grants aim to give financial support to foster knowledge exchange and knowledge gain. So with that, I hand over to Božena, who's going to talk about the Visiting Scientist Support Grant.
Hello, everyone. Katarina, would you be so kind to change slides? Okay. Visiting Scientist Support as activity of task 5 number 4 is dedicated only to a member or to partner institutions of EJP Soil. So it is dedicated to all of 26 institutions listed in the grant agreement. So, but the activity are really diverse. So you can apply for example, visiting grants to develop proposals, to develop publications, to participate in workshop, conferences, seminars, and where you can present the results of EJP Soil internal projects and other results which are related to expected impacts. So the expected impacts should be they are very important within the process of applications examination. So please remember about this. And also it is dedicated to get new skills, new expertise in soil data, methodology, and analysis, and of course to prepare publications and also policy briefs. very many activities which are dedicated to EGP soil activity, education, and expected impacts. Next one, please, Katarina. And as I said before, those grants are only dedicated to EGP soil partner institutions, but grants from task 7.4 are dedicated to external partners. So it is also very important to separate those two activities. And all of those funds are allocated in VP5. So your financial officer has to sign the application, because just to prove funds allocated to this work package. And there is no financial limit to pay for visits for the institution. One person can, for example, go for scientific visits 2 or 3 times, or for example, 10 people can go for scientific visits from one institution. It depends only on the funds of EGP partner institution and allocated budget to VP5. Of course, the aim of the visit, participation in the conference, workshop, development of publications and other projects, they have to be, they must contribute to the EGP soil as expected impact. So don't forget to show the scientific committee to which expected impacts your scientific visit contribute to. Next one, please. What is covered by those grants? So the only limitation is the time frame of the visit, because we can cover the expenses of 2 weeks visits at the maximum. So they can be shorter, but no longer than 2 weeks. And within these grants, the travel, accommodation, and also other corresponding expenses are covered. No coverage of cost pertaining to administrative processing. Your institutions know this very well. And if you want to use specific equipment or apply specific methods, other special costs like this kind of your activity at the host institution is covered by this institution, is not covered by EGP soil. The next one, please. As Katarina said at the beginning of the presentation, this is the last call. This is really extra call for you, because we have in the grant agreement, we only listed 6 calls, but the 7th is an extra call for people who really want to improve skills and also extend the knowledge. And I have prepared this figure just to communicate that some institutions are the leaders in this kind of exchange, research exchange, but some of institutions didn't spend almost any money on this kind of VP5 activity. So please ask your coordinators, national coordinators, financial officers, whether you have some funds for dedicated for VP5. This is just my last comment, that all of visits you have applied for in this last call should be finished until the end of September, because we have to implement a report from the visits, summarizing all of them. So if you will arrange a visit, please remember that they have to be finished before the end of September this year. No visits lasting, for example, until year 2025 will be granted and will be eliminated from the list by the scientific committee. Thank you very much.
Great. Thanks a lot, Bożena, and thanks also for taking this up. You will hear this information a couple of times during this presentation, because as Bożena already said, this is very, very important, and maybe a limitation now in the last call. All the reimbursement, all the cost reimbursement for the visiting scientist and the access to infrastructure will have to be finished by the end of September. Right, so let's move on with the access to infrastructure call. So in this call, it's actually two calls, to be honest. The first purpose is that you can involve a laboratory for soil analysis that are not possible at your home institution. And this might probably be of interest for some of the internal projects that are also in the last month, in case that you have analysis that you would like to perform that are not possible at your home institution, but you know that they are possible at an institution outside the EJP soil, then this kind of fund is what you should apply for. Another possibility is to involve a long-term field experiment in order to get soil samples and then analyze them yourself. And what you can pay for here is, for example, the work time of the person who then takes the samples for you, or maybe also analyze them. In contrast to the visiting scientist, in this access to infrastructure call, we have a maximum amount that you can apply for, which is 5,000 euros in total. Equipment, operation, or other special costs of the host institution are not covered for EJP soil members. And also, a limited number of requests will be reserved for applicants from non-European countries. So then you might wonder how to get in contact with the lab or an LTE. And for that, we have databases at the EJP soil homepage. You can use these links to find them. And in these databases, we have listed a number of LTEs from partner countries, EJP soil partner countries, but also laboratories. It does not mean that your application is limited to the LTEs or laboratories that you find here in these databases, but this is rather like a first step for you to screen through these databases and maybe find a laboratory or LTE that is of interest for you. There is also a search function, so you can basically search for keywords such as analysis or a specific soil type or whatever you are interested in. So then what is covered by the access to infrastructure call? And here it really depends on if you are an EJP soil partner or a non-EJP soil partner. So starting with the internal, so the EJP soil partners, what you can do is to apply together with the European Laboratory or LTE outside the EJP soil consortium for analysis or sampling. This is basically what I've been talking about with the 2 slides before, and this is what the what you can use the laboratories, the database of laboratories and LTEs for, because they do not only include EJP soil partners, but also other labs and LTEs that are maybe in partner countries, but that are not direct partners of the EJP soil. So this, for EJP soil partners, physical visits are not funded. So if you prefer to go to the LTE to take the samples yourself, then this cost for travel will not be covered by the call. So it's really only analysis or paying for soil sampling. When you are non-EJP soil partner, you can apply for a physical visit to a lab or LTE that is a partner of the EJP soil. And here again, you can use the database to find EJP soil LTEs and labs. It's indicated for each LTE and lab if it is a member or no member of the EJP soil. So opposite to this first call that you see on the left-hand side, if you are non-EJP soil partner, then really only the visits are being covered, no analysis or sampling covered. If you agree with your host lab or LTE that you want to perform sampling during your visit, then the host institution can claim 44% of their work package 7 budget for that. But the physical visits as well as the analysis for EJP soil partners are covered at 100%. So how do you now find the right call? I thought that we briefly go through this because I understand that it can be confusing with 2 different calls and then also 2 sub-calls. So if we're starting with the EJP soil partners. If your interest is in making a physical visit to a conference or a course, then you should apply for the visiting scientist support. So the grant that Božena presented, 5.4. If your interest is in taking additional soil samples or analyzing your own samples at another laboratory, then you should apply for the access to infrastructure call. For the visiting scientist support, your institution can claim 44% from their work package 5 budget. So for this kind of visit, there is still co-financing needed. In contrast to that, the access to infrastructure calls are paid at 100% by work package 7 central. So if you are a non-EJP soil partner, then you can make a physical visit to one of the labs or LTEs inside the EJP soil, also using the access to infrastructure call, 7.4. And here, 100% of the visiting costs, so travel, accommodation, bus ride to the institutions every day, is covered to a maximum amount of 5,000 euros. And as I said, if you want to run analysis during your stay, then your host institution can claim 44% of those costs from their work package 7 budget, but they will have to co-finance with 56%. Okay, so let's assume you found an interesting call for you. Then how to apply one of these calls. The application procedure is as follows. Well, first of all, this is actually, as we mentioned already, the last call before the EJP Soil program ends. So all the requests for reimbursement of costs should not be submitted, or we cannot reimburse any costs later than October, which is beginning of October. So as Božena said, everything has to be sent to us before the end of September. So all the necessary information and the documents and the application forms are on the EJP Soil website. The visiting scientist support is open for 1 month, so it will open on the 1st of April. It will close on the 30th of April. In contrast to that, the access to infrastructure, which also allows external researchers or non-researchers to apply, is open for 2 months. So this one opens on the 1st of April as well, but closes on 31st of May. So the application templates can be downloaded from the EJP Soil website. And what we ask you to do is to fill in the templates, to sign them and have them signed by your financial officer. We will get to that in a minute. And to send all the documents by mail to both Božena and myself. And the applications will then be reviewed by a scientific committee. And they have these 3 main targets that they focus on during the evaluation, which is, first of all, the scientific value of the visit or the project, the compatibility with EJP Soil aims and scope. So, and how far does this actually fall within the EJP Soil idea, and in how far is it relevant to the EJP Soil expected impacts. So this is why I would ask you to also check on the homepage again and read through the expected impacts and then see to which of those your project or your visit relates to. And right now, the scientific committee consists of members from Poland and Austria, Portugal, and Sweden. So this is what the application templates look like. There are different templates depending on if you aim on having a physical visit or if you want to analyze soil samples. So for the soil sampling and analysis, as I said earlier, you will have to apply together with the laboratory or LTE that you want your samples to be analyzed at. So here the application, it's the one you see on the left-hand side. Here you have to fill in information from both the host institution and your information as an applicant. This is a bit shorter for external applicants who basically apply by themselves and only for themselves. Another document we will ask you to fill in is the financial consent form. So here we ask you to fill in the different costs, and you will see we ask you for information on the staff type. So are you a researcher or a PhD or postdoc or a technician or so? And then the direct personnel costs. And this, depending on what call you apply for, you can include your own salary for a period of 2 weeks if you apply for the visiting scientist support, or if you apply for the access to infrastructure and want samples to be analyzed, then you can add here the salary of the technical staff that will analyze or sample the soil samples. And then very, very important is this last part. So here, this financial consent form has to be signed by either your national coordinator or the finance officer in order to be valid. So basically for EJP Soil members, that person that is in charge of your of the EJP Soil finances and who can give you an overview over how much money is left for this kind of purposes, that person should sign here. Very often it's the national coordinator. Okay. Then we go to the last topic, the organizational framework. And is Andy here?
No, I'm afraid he's not.
No, he's not. Okay, then I take over this. So the organizational framework basically focuses on the access to infrastructure call, because depending on what kind of call you apply for, we or the central part of Work Package 7 will have to make a subcontract with the LTE or the laboratory that is involved in this application. And here, this is basically written here in this Article 13 of the grant agreement. Necessary to implement the action, the beneficiaries may award subcontracts covering the implementation of certain action tasks. So if you apply together with an LTE or a laboratory, then we will make a subcontract with this LTE or laboratory in order to be able to reimburse them for the costs and transfer the money. And this will be done by BIOS, was responsible for this task. Yeah, I think so. What we will do is then that we set up a contract, and the contract will include some very specific information. Partners, which from our side is Bioscience Austria, then will be your the LTE or the laboratory that should receive the subcontracting. Then we will add a description of the project that we will take from your application. Granted amount, which is a maximum of 5,000 euro, can be less, but can definitely not be more. And the tasks and the framework of the work to be completed. Please bear in mind here already during your application, everything has to be reimbursed and sent in before the end of September. So if we already see, or if the evaluation committee already sees during the evaluation that there is a mismatch in the dates, then this application will not be further evaluated or will be rejected, kind of declined. And this contract will be signed by the subcontractor and Bioscience Austria. And in addition to that, you will receive a grant award letter according to the Article 15 of the grant agreement. Exactly, that will be supplied to third parties involved as LTEs or laboratories. And there will also be some very the same information, basically data on the beneficiary, the amount of money, institutions involved, and so on. All right, I think that was basically it from our side or with regards to the presentation. Thanks a lot for listening, and we look forward to your applications and are now open for questions. I maybe stop sharing.
If I may ask something,
Yes.
Can I, please? And it's nice to see you, Katarina, by the way.
Yeah, the same to see you.
I have a question regarding this point 7.4, which is the access to the infrastructure.
Infrastructure, right?
Yeah. And I'm very curious, do we have to fill the financial consent form if since my sending institution will not contribute anyhow to the costs, because you said that it will be covered 100% by the
Yeah.
HP. How does it work? Do I still have to fill it? Or
Yes,
how
you
does
still have to fill it because the evaluation committee needs to have a number already. So, I mean, you will only
Okay.
get that amount of money granted that you apply for. And
Yeah.
in order to distribute the funds, the evaluation committee needs to know how much you apply for.
Mhm.
And
But
also,
does
we
it,
would
okay,
Hmm?
yeah. Does it have to
Carry
be
on.
signed by someone from my institution then?
Exactly. It has to be signed by your financial officer. And this is mainly an insurance for you, because in case that your costs in the end are higher than what you applied for, then I mean, you need a backup, and then your institution has to hop in
Mhm.
to cover
All
those
right.
costs. So they also have to be aware of the amount of money you apply for, and then in
Mhm.
comparison to
Okay.
the amount that it actually costs in the end.
So staying with that, I would also like to ask about the how close it has to be to the amount at the end, or I mean, like if I will say I presume that my costs will be this high, but in the end, can I go lower, higher? How does it work, or do I have to be
You can
exactly
always
like
go lower, that's no problem. You
Yeah.
cannot go higher.
Okay. So
usually.
if I go higher, I will be reimbursed only based on the costs that I put there. I have put there, right?
Exactly,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. That's it. So one last question. I think it's understandable, but just to double check,
Mhm.
no funding will be given in advance, right? Only reimbursement.
Exactly, yeah, exactly.
And because of that, I will have to keep all the
All the
documents, or
receipts and
yeah, all
tickets,
the receipts and
exactly.
so on,
Yes,
everything.
yes, bus tickets,
Okay.
train tickets,
Okay.
invoices. Mm.
Okay. So I've written myself another question I see. So one more question about the evaluation of the applications. Because you said that it has to fit in the EGP aims and impacts, right? So I understand this is the something that the evaluation will be based on. But is there anything else, or nothing at all? Because I saw somewhere there may be like publications and so, like the achievements or the of the applicant, or
Um,
not really?
No, I think it's mainly in how far your project or your visit idea
Right.
fits
Okay.
with the aims and scope of EJP Soil. For example,
Okay.
just an example, I mean, we are very strongly focused on agricultural soils. So if you would like to have a small project or a visit that relates to forest soils, then this is definitely not in the scope of the EJP Soil.
Yeah.
And this
Yeah,
is why it's
but
important to go through these 6 expected impacts, because there it basically says what at least one of these things has to be addressed.
But in Sweden, you have agriculturally managed peatlands, right? In Poland, not that much, but in
That's
Sweden,
true.
I'm sure
Yes,
that there are.
yes, that's
So
right.
yeah, that's chance for me. That's chance for me.
That's right. Yeah,
And
great. Yeah.
okay, and I have also one question to Bożena regarding the her part, because
Mhm.
I'm trying to encourage some people from Wageningen to come to Jung, to Puławy, to pay me a visit, but also it would be nice if they can come to Jung. And I'm curious because you mentioned that the maximum duration is 2 weeks, right? And I guess that is the same for the 7.4. But is there anything like a minimum duration, or not really? Like,
No.
can it be 5 days or 4 days or?
No, there is no minimum, but there is only maximum, maximal duration of the visit. You can, for example, go for the conference for 3 days and for 2 days, and just for the workshop, or for the for some visits, or for example, internal project meetings. There is no limitation. But I would like also add to the first question the information that that the signature of financial officer is also needed for the scientific committee. as a confirmation that the costs of the visit were calculated properly following the national criteria, because all of our countries, they have the different criteria. So then we can see that everything was done properly. This is a sign for us.
So thank you very much for clarification, because I thought that the national regulations that apply to the country that I'm going to, but it seems that it is the country that I'm going from, right? Or...
No, you are going to.
Okay.
Yes, because we have some rules in Poland, and for example, our daily expenses are calculated due some rules. And then if you are going to Italy, you have you will got a different amount of money when comparing to, for example, Switzerland.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's true. All right. So thank you very much, both of you. It was lovely to be here. And thank you for clarifying my doubts.
I have also one question at the chat asked by whom? Joseph. No, it is not only possibility to participate in a conference organized by EGP Soil. You can go for all of conferences and, for example, present the results that within EGP Soil project, just to share the results, and your participation in the conference will be covered by EGP task 5.4. If you applied, of course, for the grant, you can go for training course, not only organized by EGP, soil, conferences, workshops, and so on, where just the only reason is to get permission from your financial officer. Just get the confirmation of availability of costs.
Yeah, that's right. Thanks, Božena. Are there more questions?
There is also other question regarding the conference which will be held in Morocco, but there is no restrictions for the EGP and also applications and conferences to be organized in Europe or in other countries. So if you apply and if you will have confirmation from your financial officer that the cost will be reimbursed, just please apply for the visit.
Because maybe good to mention here again, for the visiting scientist, the costs have to be co-financed. So your institution or whoever is in charge of co-financing the Work Package 5 activities, they have to take over 56% of those visiting costs. So if you go to a conference, your institution or your project or whatever you use as co-financing will have to cover 56%. EJP Soil and Work Package 5 will hop in with 44%.
Just to be clear that the institution is not does not cover those costs. The cost is covered by the budget of program manager. So institution can only dedicate to different costs to different work packages. So you can apply for this money because the institution, your institution has it from program owner. So don't be afraid of applying for these grants of task point 5.4 or 7.4. Yeah, your institutions have this money.
Yeah, I have one more question, if I
Yeah.
may.
Yeah.
Because I'm curious, both of you mentioned a couple of times that everything has to be finalized before the end of September, right? And I'm curious about the feasibility. So would it be feasible to come like for 2 weeks, starting from the 1st September? Would it be enough to finalize everything in the second part of September? So that's
Basically,
still fine.
If you send in everything right after your visit, then that should be fine.
Yes.
Okay.
It's September. For example, preparing visits for September is okay, but preparing visits for October is not okay.
Yeah. And one more thing, it's gonna be kind of personal because I'm curious. I read the regulation and so, and there's the statement that the visit has to end, as we are saying. But the thing is, I got the postdoc granted in Sweden, and can I combine it, or will it be any like a problem that it cannot be cross-funded and so? How does it work? Or you get my point or not really? Because the thing is, can I go to Sweden and stay there for longer, but with another funding, or will they say no, you cannot come with the same, with two fundings for the same like purpose?
Yes, in my opinion, this visit should be divided into different into visits. For example, the first part, for example, 2 weeks can be financed by EGP Soil, but other part by other project. So it can be clear for everything, and also for European Commission. It will not be double financed.
All right, thank you.
You can combine easily.
All right, I'll do my best then. I'll do my best.
May I just add a little thing, because it's sometimes the question of the flight costs, which can also be reimbursed if the stay is longer than this 20 days granted from the Task 7.4 call. So if you have your flight to Sweden on 1st of September, but your back flight is somewhere in December, we can reimburse both flights. So the length of the stay doesn't have an impact on the flight price. So this is just a little thing to add.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
Yes, and if you finish your visit, for example, at the end of September, please send the report to us, to Katarina and me immediately, because we have to include your comments to our for example, like me, to delivery, which I should implement in November. So I will, if you will not send me the report, I will contact you for sure.
All right, understandable. Thank you.
More questions? No. As I said, we will upload the recording and the slides to the homepage, so you can go through it again. And if there are questions popping up then don't hesitate to contact Bożena and myself, also after the call has opened. So remember, the visiting scientist will be open during April, will close on the 30th of April. The access to infrastructure will be open April and May. So you have a bit more time to think about a nice project. Nice, great. So if there are no more questions, then thank you so much for joining today. And yeah, we look forward to your applications.